Hello and welcome back to the Reloading Podcast. My name is Beard, and I am here again with the United Eric. And today,
Yes.
we kind of keep ending up in this position where,
Yeah.
like every 2 weeks or so, we find ourselves recording this weird fucking podcast thing.
Somehow.
So, anyways, today we are revisiting Girl of the Bakehouse because since the last time we talked about it, a lot of stuff happened. Good day, sir.
That's the. I finally heard him once.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
So yeah, a lot of things have happened surrounding Girl of the Bakehouse since then. For one, I've pushed out the English patch for the game. So this will be a full spoiler discussion. We are going to talk about the entire game or the entire story, whatever we feel like talking about within it. So if you yourself have not experienced Girl of the Bakehouse yet, we highly encourage you to go and hit the link in the description where we've listed it. Hopefully you're on a platform that allows for it. You do need a Chinese locale to run the game, but you can also join our Discord server and we will gladly help you out. Again, link as well in the description. Which, just join it anyways. Like, come on.
Yeah. Be active there. It's fun.
I mean, we hope it to be fun. Right now, we don't really have a lot of people there, so there's not a lot of talk.
Yeah, it's
but
slightly on the inactive side, but we definitely check it out constantly. So
yeah, we're constantly on there. We have separate channels for feedback or suggestions for the podcast. We have a big section only for GFL. And then if you become a regular, you can also talk about all kinds of other stuff.
And it's also likely the best way to actually join the podcast at some points. So
yeah,
if
exactly. If you wanna
talking,
guest on the podcast for whatever reason, best way is to join there, get to know us, or let us get to know each other. And if you want to guest, then you can join there. Anyways, about Girl of the Bakehouse. If you haven't played it yet, link is in the description. Go download it there. You need a Chinese locale to play it, so use a locale emulator or set your own PC's locale. You can find instructions on how to do that pretty easily by just Googling it. Or again, if you run into any troubles doing so, join the server and we will gladly help you out.
Yep, as a small tip, if you do change your locale, Chinese simplified legacy is going to work really well there. So
exactly, the best locale to choose is Mandarin Legacy or Chinese simplified legacy. That's the one that has been most reliably working for everyone. Now, anyways, I'm gonna let you start talking because I am very well acquainted with the story at this point.
Yeah, I figured. Honestly, it's decent. I wouldn't say it has blown me away pretty much, but it was definitely satisfying. It felt like drinking a cold Sprite, for example. It's pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm still a bit coffee, so sorry if I have to turn away from the mic a bit.
I definitely noticed that it had a trend more towards logical conclusions over emotional conclusions, where it brought forward the story in a very fast pace in order to conclude certain questions about what's going to happen, but it skipped out on a lot of how are they going to feel about it, and I think that's mostly where you can blame the length for it.
Yeah, it's a pretty short story, but that's one of I feel like that's one of the core draws even to some point, because it's a really fast-paced story. It's still quite well made.
Yeah,
and this is something that I want to touch on later, but the way it uses its medium is absolutely fantastic.
I wasn't
the way it uses the medium of visual novels, in my opinion.
I wasn't too. Actually, there's one thing I noticed that stood out to me, which I enjoyed. But other than that, I don't think there's much I thought was like really important for it to be a visual novel. And the one thing that stood out to me was the gunshots.
The gunshot, the SFX.
Like having the gunshots be that loud and clear while reading it was really nice, because every single gunshot in this visual novel, at least those important ones, were important, and having it like really stand out was a cool thing actually.
Yeah. Yeah, again, like that's one of the things, right? The sound design, like the OST is like, honestly, at some points, like some of the tracks are a bit weaker, but overall I think the OST is amazing.
Yeah, I think
Like, especially if you consider that this is like 3 people in a college dorm.
yep, I took note of some tracks, but it's not like one where I'd be like, oh hey, I'm gonna remember this, at least not in a first playthrough.
Yeah, no,
it's something.
there's, to be fair, again, I've not just played a lot of the game. I also just went through it over and over again, here and there, to like make sure that all the technical side is, everything is okay. Jesus Christ, GFA. I really need to turn off GFA while we're recording these things. God, that scared the shit out of me. Yeah, logs, thank you. Go away, Elfeld. So yeah, like that's one of the things, like, of course, because like I kept going back in, I had all these like different save spots across the whole thing to check out technical things, all that.
Yeah,
Then of course, like the more you're exposed to something, the more like you're obviously to remember it.
Yeah.
And goddamn if I don't remember some of those OST pieces.
Yeah, for example, one thing I noticed is that I didn't really notice much of a leitmotif in the music itself. This might just be a part of like me reading fast, or there being none. I don't know at this point.
I would have to go back through looking for one, but like going by memory, I don't think there was one. Like, as one specific leitmotif, which isn't a bad thing.
No,
like,
it's not. I mean, GFLSF also doesn't use much of a leitmotif.
Yeah,
there are certain tracks
GFL doesn't have
actually
much.
It has one. M16's theme, for example, reappears a lot.
I'd have to check it.
No, there were certain themes that are tied to M16 that reappear in different songs, which is kind of cool.
I'd have to check it, because I genuinely don't remember.
Having no leitmotif in this short story is not an issue. It's way too short to actually build up a leitmotif. And
yeah, that's the thing. This is like only a 1 or 2 hour read.
Yeah, in a weird way, the fact that it doesn't have emotional conclusion but logical conclusion is actually a sign towards its quality.
Yeah, because that's one of the things. Like, that's what I already know, like mentioned in like the last episode on Bakehouse that we had, that the characters are very clearly flawed, and they very definitively suffer the consequences for their flaws.
Yeah, like pretty much everyone there.
Pretty much everyone does, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have like...
Mendo in the end suffers from like his absolute inconsistency throughout the entire thing. Like, that's another one. Like, of course, they're like with Mendo, the main thing, like his main arc is one of internal conflict, right?
Yeah.
Like, he hates war. He just wants this shit to end.
Also, Mendo's main character, just for information. I think, yeah, Mendo should be the main character.
Wait, what?
Mendo, main character.
Oh, yeah, Mendo's the main character, right?
So, because a lot of the stories...
I mean, again, we're talking here in the assumption that people know, right?
Oh, yeah, that's also true.
Full spoiler discussion.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of... The mention of Mendo as a name is very rare. It's just like 1 or 2 times, because, well, it's in the first-person perspective.
Could I have fucking picked the worst goddamn time to record? Now the fucking neighbors are hammering downstairs.
Goddamn.
Hammering their fucking walls or whatever the fuck they're doing down there. Anyways, Yeah, Mendo's whole deal, like whole arc, is one of internal conflict. He hates war, but at the same time, like he wants to help Jefuti, of course, and is driven to do so by his feelings. He sees like a difference in the then of course the feelings of guilt towards her as well, and but of course opposed to that is the fact that she's an enemy civilian. You still there?
Yeah. I was just waiting for you to
I was
finish.
passing that over to you.
Okay. um,
If there's anything you want to add.
Mendo, in my opinion, was quite a nice main character. I definitely enjoyed how he thought about certain things through. And my favorite moment in his character arc, or how do we call it, was when he remembered like the things that his superior said to him about like the revenging of his own parents.
Ah, God fucking damn it. The name. I forgot the name. This is something I actually wanted to look up.
Them. But yeah.
When he was a child.
Yeah, when he was a child and his parents got
superior.
battered to death.
Yeah.
That what I really liked was that Mendo did not give away that knowledge to Jeopardy and instead helped her out, completely contradicting what he was being taught, just because he felt like he didn't earn it to say that to her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
That was cool.
Like that's what I said, right? He knows the situation. He knows the situation, and he's like, oh God.
Stop dying.
He knows the situation, and he's like self-aware enough to like see the differences between his case and Jifuti's case.
Yeah.
And on top of that come, again, his own feelings for her and his feelings of guilt towards her.
Yeah.
That in the end tell him, like, yo, you can't, like, just repeat this shit to her.
In a way, it does feel like...
Colonel Mitas. It was Mitas.
Yeah. In a way, it does feel as if Mendo was slightly projecting his own desires onto Jeopardy and then pushed her to do some things.
I can see that, yeah.
So, yeah, like, basically.
Though, something I do want to note is, like, the way the way he approached their first assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was still the way that he planned it. It was still very obvious that he didn't really think that Jeopardy was going to go through with it.
Yeah.
Like, he mostly like set it up in a way to like to mostly like entertain her idea of revenge, with the hope of her backing down. That is very obvious and very clear with the way that their first plan, like the way that he planned their first assassination and how it eventually played out.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Because you can tell the way that it's written, he's just as nervous as Jeopardy.
Yep.
But for a very different reason.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's clearly that he doesn't want it, actually.
Yeah, he doesn't want this to happen. And he hopes for Jeopardy to, like, pivot. And, like, all the way to the very last second, you can like, the way that it's written, like, how he basically, like, monitors the nervousness of her every move.
Yep, it's also very important to point out here that after credits at the funeral, he also questions it, like what would have happened if she didn't take that first shot, or what happened if the first shot got different.
If he didn't help her.
So, like, it's pretty clear that even throughout everything that happens through the story, the question of was this the right thing, or am I doing the right thing,
still continues to linger.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
So that's
again, that's the thing, right? That's that theme or like that arc of internal conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that one goes all the way past the credits 5 years after the story in 2085.
Which is actually kind of interesting to see him being like that as a reporter, because as a reporter he states himself that he has to be an unbiased tripod for the camera and nothing more, and he's anything but.
Yeah, the way he acts is he's anything but, yeah. And like that's another thing, like with his inconsistency, with his mild hypocrisy that he's bringing in. I'm saying mild because to an extent, like, you know, he already is slightly biased simply by the fact that he's part of the Antarctic Army. And, you know, he's embedded in this unit that is occupying this little village. The enemy village, and a little enemy village for that matter. So, in that situation alone, for a wartime correspondent, I would assume there's already some inherent bias.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much unavoidable. But
like to their like to the point of their reporting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, like, again, that also just contributes further to the internal conflict, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in this case it's more like an unconscious bias, and he's trying his best to consciously not be biased. It's just he's a human, so there you go.
Yeah, like that's another thing, right? He's his strong aversion to war as a whole.
Yep, which in itself is actually also a bias.
Yeah, which in itself is a bias, and which also again goes a bit against what we actually see him do, specifically with the helicopter, and then again later helping Djibouti.
Yeah.
But like
Speaking of the
again,
helicopter,
I'm a broken record at this point.
yeah.
It all plays into that internal conflict, and that's something that it's basically the driving force behind Mendo's character throughout the entire thing.
Speaking of the helicopter, in a weird way, I'm starting to like it more, less of because of what it means and how it happens, because I still think, as a small reminder, Mendo wanted to take a few photo shoots. There was a heavy fog. They shot into the fog. Civilians were there, and then they had to kill the rest of the civilians in order to not have it be public that this should happen.
Yeah, to not have witnesses, basically.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, that plot point, as like a logical thing, it's still kind of too far-fetched to believe that there would be a military military group that wouldn't check during heavy fog that if there's absolutely nothing.
I mean, from the way it's framed, the intel they had said that it was clear, the sector.
That's still kind
from
of,
what I gather.
Yeah, it's
right?
still like very far-fetched.
Especially something like the way Djibouti talks about it later.
Yeah.
It's that it was like a pretty far away, like an off the beaten path kind of, like, just like a small village.
Yeah, but
where probably her parents' vacation home was the like biggest deal in the entire damn village.
Yeah, but I think personally it would make a lot more sense to me to believe that if you're going to shoot live ammo at a completely unseeable target, that you're going to make sure you know there's fucking nothing there, and not just believe one intel or so. That's way too less information to actually shoot live ammo.
Yeah,
I mean, that's my issue. Like, it's
then again, we don't really know enough about the intel itself.
Yeah, that's
we just know that there is intel, that there's nothing there.
Yeah, like I said, that's was one of the points that like I thought was pretty. Nah. There's actually one more later, which I'll get to. But in a way, I do like the symbolic nature of the event, Because this whole thing is just a huge shot into the dark. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And the whole thing reflects itself in the actions of Jefferty and Mendo as he goes to the first assassination, which is also a shot in the dark, and he has to relive the consequences of all of this.
Yeah.
Though this time around, he knows what he was doing.
I mean,
and
with the first assassination, they got really fucking lucky.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like you can tell again by the way that because Mendo is the narrator, we have a very direct feed of what is actually what the situation actually is.
Yeah.
Rather than having like a third person narrator, where again the narrator's omnipresent or omniscience might actually be a bit of a detriment compared to having a first person in this kind of situation, because through Mendo's lens we see that we can just kind of get a better feel for just the scale of the chaos in the base after the shot, which allows them to just get away unscathed, right?
Yeah, definitely. I also noticed one thing about First Assassination, that it's one where he explicitly mentioned how young or like who she shot, his rank, what casualty he was, or which number he was, and I think his 2-year-old son or daughter, I don't remember. Either way, it's kind of interesting to see how he was a lot more affected by his death than Jefferty was, even though Jefferty was the one who pulled the trigger. And
well, yeah, but again, that's again, it goes back into the internal conflict within him, right?
Yeah, but
his
it also
his
kind
whole
of
opposition to war.
You could also tie it back to the whole fog scene or the helicopter scene, because he was not the one who pulled the trigger. It was someone else who did it in his command.
Yeah.
So that's maybe why he felt so much more guilt for it than the one who actually shot her.
Holy shit. The transcription is already done.
Oh, damn, nice.
Good lord, I think. I'll check it in a bit. He just sent me. This is something like a bit of off-screen ramble here. Something that we talked about earlier. There's this Japanese Bakehouse fan that I found through Psy. And we've been talking a bit back and forth about Bakehouse. And I asked him, hey, yo, could you maybe transcribe the ending, the credits song? And he just went ahead and fucking did it in 30 minutes. That's sick.
Damn, that's
okay.
blessed.
Anyways.
Alright. So last thing I mentioned was how the guilt of giving the order is higher than the guilt of pulling the trigger, pretty much, and that's being reflected in both Jefferty killing the first man and Mendo feeling guilty for it and really thinking about what he has done, compared to the helicopter scene with Mendo giving the order and someone else pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it's basically it's pretty much mirrored right there.
Yeah,
and it further just solidifies again just the way he looks at this kind of stuff, basically.
Yep.
And it also further justifies how he continues to handle things because of his guilt.
Yeah. Think, and overall, I'd say the helicopter scene was very good inside the story itself. I could definitely fit it into it. And similarly to another scene, which I'm going to get into probably later after I let you talk about some stuff, it's one where I understand why it exists and how it interconnects everything. I just still think it could have been done a slight bit better, but
I mean, yeah, it's not perfect. It all goes by a bit too quick.
Yeah,
Specifically, the helicopter scene is like done over with very quickly. But I think that's also primarily because the main way that we experience it as the players is in the opening,
yeah,
as the opener to the whole story. And then later, the primary way that it comes up again is through the retelling from Jifuti's point of view, right?
yep.
And then maybe a bit of like Mendo remembering it.
Mm.
That's pretty much it. And like when the story focuses on it.
Mm.
So yeah, the main way that we do experience it is through the opener, which in and of itself is already a bit weak, but that's mostly because it hasn't aged very well,
Yeah.
which is something that I do want to fix in the eventual Renpai release, which I do plan on doing. For those watching right now, I do plan to also port the game into like Renpai, which is a vastly more modern visual novel engine that'll allow me to just make everything a lot more comfy, basically. And you won't need to like change your locale and all that shit to run it.
So you can also
And it'll be
change-
able to run on mobile and all that kind of shit.
Can you also
which is
change
also
the
neat.
window size in this case then?
That's a thing. That's something I want to look into because the original game is in 4:3 aspect ratio. And Renpai, it does support 4:3, but like its native resolutions are 16:9. So all the artwork is in 4:3 for the game. So I would have to find some way to just change the aspect ratio on the artwork without sacrificing anything, and that's going to be spicy. So yeah. Anyways, TikTok aside, was there anything else you wanted to say
In
regarding
regards
what we were talking about?
It depends. I was just finishing up my talk about the helicopter scene.
Well, if
Actually,
there's nothing you want to add,
one
then
thing I can add quickly is about the thing which I did enjoy was like the realization that, oh shit, we fucked up, and now we have to kill like everything there. Like, that was a kind of a nice touch.
yeah, the way that again, it's all very quick. Like you would expect there to be like a bit of a break within there, like in there, some like just for it to take a few minutes rather than like 1 minute.
Yeah.
Which then again, the entire fucking scene feels like it's 10 minutes long because it's aged so poorly.
Although I feel in this case the quickness of it actually works in its favor because like it's a scene where oh fuck, we have to get to this quickly, so you can't really linger on it very fast.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
just that at some point it would have been maybe better to retrospectively go more into it, just not while it's happening.
yeah, but again, the thing is like you would expect the way they check or the way they react in that situation to take a bit longer simply. I think like they shoot, they have the impact, and then first they like have to look like with that's probably already like, to be fair, they're like some of the highest trained people in the world anyways, so maybe it's just that we can't relate.
I think it's kind of more of a heavily fucked up what to do, panic, or here's
Well, yeah,
a
but
command,
the point where they
there we go.
realize that they fucked up, like they first have to register that they actually hit a civilian target. That's what I'm talking about. Like that gap. Like in the opener, we have the explosion, and almost immediately one of the pilots is like, "Wait, there's people there."
Oh
And
yeah,
I feel like
that was too fast.
having like 5 or 10 seconds in there with like mostly silence, I think that would have helped a lot to like bring up the opening scene to like a bit better level of execution.
Yeah, actually, yeah, having like the people be phoned that quickly just means
Again, they
that
just have to
the intel
register.
would have been fucking bullshit in this case. If it takes only one shot to figure out that there are people there, or well, some shots.
Through the fog,
Yeah,
I would
I
like
know,
to
right?
say. Like, if you hit a civilian target, then obviously, like, depending on what the intel was, let's say, like, I think it even was like that it's just like a field of snow or some shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like just a field of snow or like a bit of like a patch of forest or whatever. The fire caused by a missile like that and the debris,
Yeah,
etc., would be very different from when you hit a civilian target versus like just into a forest, right?
Yeah, like.
But then again, through that thick of a fog, it would take like just at least like a really good spotter. It would still take a few seconds to register what they just did.
Yeah, plus, I mean, you have to differentiate like how small actually a human is.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can't even see a house in a fog, so forget about seeing a human in this case.
yeah, exactly. So they would just have. I mean, to be fair, they have like IR cameras and shit.
Yeah, and in which case, why didn't they use it before shooting?
They wouldn't exactly see much through the fog. This is like Siberian conditions.
Oh, yeah.
So they wouldn't really see much, like in terms of IR signatures through the fog. It would mostly just be, yeah, gray, which we do see. It is mostly just gray. Like we do see the like the IR imaging, but even then, like from even the stuff that we do see, they would need a few seconds to figure out like the IR imagery.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, if they had just reacted a bit slower during that helicopter scene, I think that would have been just done a lot more. And helped it to have more impact. Pun intended, 100%.
Oh, yeah. God damn it. Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see them shoot into it, and then, like, someone goes in and checks, or they notice something is off, and then you come to the slow realization that the intel was wrong, and it's like, wait. So in this case, it would actually work even better, because then it would be it would give like this mystery of like who the fuck gave them the wrong intel and why,
Yeah, and
etc.
why was it wrong, more importantly,
Yeah.
if it was self-gathered.
Yep. In this case, then it would like showcase that like someone is definitely trying to hide something there in order
Either
to.
that or someone just massively fucked up.
Oh yeah, like heavily fucked up. Jesus, like imagine going to your going to someone and saying like, oh yeah, I kind of fucked up. So what did you do? Yeah, I didn't check the fog, and now I committed a bit of a genocide. It's like, oh, but yeah. So yeah, definitely. The execution of the fog scene wasn't the idealist, in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but again, that's something. That's something as the fans, we have power to change.
Oh god.
I mean, like I said, I will be redoing the opening for the Renpai port.
Oh, nice. I assume you're going to keep
again,
it
it's
faithful to the original.
So fucking poorly, and I have to translate the cards anyway. Like the title cards, the credit cards that it flashes in during the scenes.
No, yeah.
I'll have to translate those anyways, so might as well just redo the entire thing. Fucking redub it, because good lord.
Oh yeah.
Fucking 3 Chinese students in 2008 talking English, trying to sound like again, like military English. It's, oh my god. Like every single goddamn time I fire up the game and I didn't have like a save state as early as possible, I just put it up and like put down my headphones and like went to grab a drink or some shit to not have to sit through the opening because the voice acting is so fucking bad. What I did notice though is I did make a tweet about this. It's like I don't remember the exact tweet. It was like, is Mendo a self-insert for Yuzhong? Because like the guy's already the producer. Why would he burden himself with another task to voice act Mendo? Because I feel like if you look at the lines, you can definitely tell that Yuzhong is the one voicing Mendo. The characters aren't specifically credited in the game, but like we know Yuzhong's voice nowadays. Like he's appeared more than enough on tape, for us to know his voice. And yeah, that's definitely Mendo. And that's just it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, if you have such a small team, you kind of have to do multiple things. But
Well, yeah, but again,
picking the main
pick
character
is
yeah,
especially when he has the thickest of 2008 in self-insert OC vibes to his design.
oh yeah, that's fun.
Ugh. And then
I
given the
think-
situation, yikes.
Yeah. So is there anything you want to talk about in particular right now?
I mean, mostly just again the way that it uses its medium, because
Oh yeah, that's a
like
very,
a lot of the decisions, like the creative decisions and how the game is framed, specifically for one, the choice to only have one line of text on the screen at a time. I think that's a very big part, because combined with the first person viewpoint, it feels like Mendo is writing this as a report.
Oh yeah, you mean like typewriter style?
Exactly, like
thing.
typewriter style, one line at a time.
Actually, here's an idea for the Ren'Py port. Add typewriter sounds to it. You just.
I feel like that would be a
thing.
bit too annoying. You have that in the beginning of, like, that's the thing. You
Oh,
have
yeah,
that on
yeah.
the opening already as well.
Yeah.
Like the very start of the opening, that paragraph that comes on, that
Yeah,
already
that's
has
true.
typewriter sounds. I feel like that sets the scene enough to
Yep.
suggest that kind of idea, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's the way that the story is told, which is then just reinforced by the single line being flashed or being rolled in.
Yeah, makes sense. I definitely think that's kind of a positive I didn't really pick up on, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's like a subtle thing.
I've spent a lot more time with this
Yeah,
game
I
than
noticed.
you.
I basically just read it like twice, once the script and then the game.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely good.
again, just another thing that adds to this, report-like feeling, is also like the illustrations, because they're really sketchy, like literally.
Yeah, the sketches.
They're very they're sketched, and that just again gives off kind of the vibe of placeholders until like Mendo can put in his photos or whatever, because we
Yeah.
do have a few points during the VN where he specifically mentions that what we as readers are currently seeing is the scene that he photographed, like is the photograph. What specifically comes to mind is the one with Jifuti taking care of the dogs
Oh yeah.
from the bakery. That is something that he specifically mentions to be a photograph
Yep.
that he made. And again, I feel like a lot of those sketches like have that feeling of being kind of placeholdery, but at the same time it also emphasizes the like subdued, a bit like almost depressed but still daydreamy feel of the story.
You know, one thing I really enjoyed about the whole thing about like how it's presented was definitely that this visual novel doesn't have character sprites or anything like that.
Yes,
It's
that's the
all every
It's
single
all CGs.
shot. Well, yeah, kind of CGs is. Don't think that's the best term in this case.
I mean,
But
even
yeah,
if they're
I
just
mean,
sketches, they're still CGs, right?
Yeah,
Because they're
Oh, yeah.
not your classic composition of character sprites on background.
yeah, pretty much.
They
It's
are
like every
they are
single-
drawn. They're full drawn scenes.
Yep, every
which
single
is pretty
shot.
much as close as you're gonna get to a definition for CGs in visual novels.
Yeah, it's basically every single shot there is pretty much framed as it wants to be framed in the story itself. So
Yeah.
that's a really big plus in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a huge plus because every single scene is exactly depicted as you're supposed to imagine it, right?
Yep, and also
Because
cool
that's
was
the thing that you have with a lot of books is that, you know, it's supposed to paint a picture in your mind and you're supposed to imagine the action happening yourself. And visual novels have the visual part helping that. But then again, most of the time it's just sprites on backgrounds, which sets the scene a bit, but still gives you a lot of work. And this way, the artist's vision comes across so much clearer.
Yep, I think one of the
And
things I
it
enjoyed
almost
there,
gives it a movie-like feel, in my opinion.
yeah, definitely. One thing I noticed was also cool is the sheer amount of CGs there. Like, goddamn, that's a lot.
Yeah, like a lot of them are just minor variations. But let me grab the specific number because of course I have a specific number. I have the fucking
Course you're
game
weak.
decompiled on my patch BG image. How many are there? Some of them are unused, but in total there's 151 CGs.
Yeah, that's quite a lot for such a
Like
short time.
again, some of them are reused in there, some of them are minor variations, but it's 151 in total.
Yep, considering the length is not even a 50th of normal. Okay, maybe it's like a 20th of a usual visual novel, but it's still nothing.
It's really short. Like even compared to visual novels that are considered really short,
Yeah.
like Sayano Uta, which is like what?
Damn it, I was actually thinking about that one.
I know we've
but
already mentioned Sayano Uta in the first episode. We talked
Yeah.
about Bakehouse, but
Sayano
Sayano Uta is like
Uta-
what 4 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I think if you complete all things,
Something
it's
like
like
that.
4 to 8 hours, something like those things. Yeah,
Yeah, something
Which
like that,
makes
depending
it-
on reading speed, of course.
4 times longer than.
Which is 4 times longer than Bakehouse.
Yep.
And that's considered a pretty goddamn short visual novel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Bakehouse is over in a flash once you get into it.
yeah, it's pretty.
Which,
it's a really
which
fast
honestly,
read.
if you ask me, is probably by the end of Chapter 1. Like, by the end of Chapter 1, the game should... Maybe Chapter 2, the game should have you hooked.
Yep.
my
That's kind of around where it hooked.
Chapter 1, the end of Chapter 1 is the Christmas photo.
Yeah.
Where like Mendo learns Jeffuti's name and everything.
Yeah.
Like that Jefuti is the end of Chapter 1. Which again, of course, I know, because while it's not mentioned in the game, I read the script line by line.
So let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bring it up now, but the one scene that bothered me the most, and I get kind of went from, oh hey, this is really fucking good, to god damn it, why did you have to do this exact thing, was the major killing the random civilians, and then after he killed the mayor, he just happened to pull Kamon towards him.
I think that was calculated on his side.
Okay, yeah, that's a good
It's
reference.
not exactly framed like that because we see it from
Mendo's perspective.
yeah, we see it from Mendo's perspective, but I can definitely see that being a calculated move by him, because again, he's already got the hitch that there's something off with Mendo and Jefuti, and seeing how Mendo is staying at theirs, he would know that Kamon is there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like this whole scene was
it's a bit of a
just-
calculated move, definitely.
The scene was definitely a moment of like, you're kind of reaching really far about what is possible during war. Like, I can't imagine
Yeah.
it being ever doable to just be like, oh, hey, by the way, we're just going to shoot every single innocent person, even if it's a little child, just to get one person to confess. Like, that, there's no way that makes any sense to me.
Basically, they're holding the entire village hostage.
Yeah, that's unless it's like a extreme tyrannical regime, that is way too far-fetched in my opinion.
Yeah,
And that's kind of
like
where-
that's another thing. Like, we have later context from this
Yeah.
well, not from this universe, but we have the later context that the Antarctic Union are kind of sort of the good guys.
Well, yeah, I feel like
Because in Bakery Girl, the UNRC are again framed as basically future Nazis,
well,
and then having this having the Antarctic Union being framed in a similar way here is kind of weird.
one
So
thing I definitely noticed was also I think like the one thing that, or rather the one thing that like stood out to me the most in terms of like this whole thing of what the Major did was he made it public as fuck. Like there's a difference between like the way he told about everyone about it. It's like, dude, you already try to hide the actions of the fork scene. How do you think you're going to get through doing that instead? Like there's no way this wouldn't leak out sometimes at some point.
I don't
Unless
think that, like, honestly, it
unless it was
depends
like
on how much of a grip he has on his unit.
Oh, and also like the way it because they're all secluded in there anyway. So yeah, that kind of works, but it's still
I mean, yeah, it's a bit wonky, but it's like a very extreme measure that he's doing for a more or less justified reason, right?
yeah.
Because the Inspector General was killed, and he's a relatively high-ranking person, even relative to him.
Yeah, I
So-
think the main issue I had was definitely the way it was executed. I think I would
Yeah.
have preferred it much, much more if he did it in like silence, where suddenly someone else
Ended up
got
dead.
ended up dead, and like
I can see that being a reframe, of the scene. That again, just one day the mayor's dead
then
under
it's
these
like,
super
wait,
strict circumstances. So the
Yeah.
lead is there, and then
And-
the next day he just suddenly shows up at the bakery.
Yep. Also, it
Takes-
would also give him like something where he's like, "Oh hey, you are a reporter, Mando. Can you take a look at this?" And like that gives him a way to lure in Mando into his plan. Something
Yeah.
like the mayor is dead.
Lure him in a bit.
Yeah. Like and then suddenly
Then-
he's there to
then again-
unfold the mystery that the major itself himself has tied up.
From the way that Mendo frames him, the mayor's not exactly the most subtle person either.
Oh yeah, he's blunt.
So
He's
maybe it would be a
Quite
bit
a-
out of character to go through with that kind of plan.
Oh yeah, that's also an option. Like he's quite the caveman.
Yeah, pretty much. But there's another thing like I've noticed while playing through, and I'm like coming back to right now, looking at like this wall of CGs, because of course I opened the folder to
No, of
count.
course you do.
No, because like they're all numbered and everything. Like again, just how some of the scenes are framed with this, like in the visual, like the visual style, how some of the scenes are framed with this like almost wholly dreamlike quality, and much more importantly, which frames or which CGs they are. Like for one, we have like Jifuti singing the carol, which very obviously why that is framed that way. Then one
that
you
makes
would
sense.
expect to be framed like it, that isn't, with like the staircase and everything, with Mendo checking up on her early on. But then we return to that during the executions, or during the assassinations. Both of them that we see specifically. And then for one, of course, the kiss at the end.
Oh yeah.
And then again, very specifically, during the final scene, during the ending, where everything mostly just becomes silhouettes drenched in white.
Yep. It's
Which I think
pretty-
is a fucking fantastic move on that end.
Yep. There's
Because
definitely a certain feeling that Jeff Footy is seen as holy in Mendo's eyes, and we are seeing it from his perspective.
exactly. That's the whole thing with the sketches again, right?
Yeah.
Then again, there's some scene like
Oh,
there's
actually,
quite a
there's
lot of scenes with Jeff Footy that don't have this quality as well.
actually one thing I don't think was planned, but could be a more like accidental result of it being so sketchy is that it reflects better how memories actually are. Like you just don't remember anything as detailed as you want it to be.
Exactly.
So
That's what I mean with like the stream-like quality, right?
yeah, definitely.
Because again, it's just that vibe that I also get from the game. Like it's again, it's a bit emphasized during the post-credits scene about now like she's one of millions of casualties, and she lives on in my memory, right?
Yep.
That's one of the like big takeaways for Mendo at the very end.
Yep, and I feel like I just have to check now.
That's actually like now that now that I'm saying it out loud, the gravestone is the one fucking CG that's drawn with high fidelity.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to check now, but
Like let me just put it into the recording booth here. Like
okay.
compare that with all the other CGs in the game.
Yeah, it's really clear.
It's very clear that, yeah, again, that's just it makes me nerd out because it's such a fucking good use of a medium, and I love that shit.
That's great, actually. I feel like in general, in case this isn't obvious by now, but yeah, this game is way better in hindsight than it is when reading it.
Yeah, it's a lot better when you try to look at it from like in hindsight, I guess. I wouldn't really say it in hindsight, but like in a more analytical standpoint.
That's still hindsight,
right?
But yeah, I agree. It's analytical.
Yeah, it's in hindsight because of course you have to experience it first.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense. But yeah,
I mean, you have to experience it first to be able to analyze it.
Yep.
But like it's very clearly an author's work, which is again why I'm inclined to think that Mendo is a bit of a self-insert.
Yeah,
because
I can see.
it's very clearly an author's work. Yu Zhang took such a core role in the development, just alone from being the artist on everything. Like he's drawn every single one of these CGs. And there again, it's just so fucking much to unpack on like even just a meta level within the story.
Yep, I would say personally, it is definitely one of the games I enjoyed. Well, with short stories that I enjoyed quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't view it as like the best one I've read so far. Like that would go more towards Son of the Butcher, but it's also.
I mean, I don't read a lot, so
Oh yeah,
it's up there. But again, that's mainly just because I don't read much.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So, in case you haven't read Son of the Butcher, the one thing I can tell you is it's equally complete, but it favors emotional development over logical development or story development.
Yeah, fair. But I wouldn't really say that there's no emotional development in Bakehouse either.
Yeah, there's some.
It's
but
definitely not the focus. It's definitely more focused on trying to bring everything to a conclusion that works with the setup. But there's definitely still a lot of emotional weight there, right?
Yep. I'd say.
And again, that's just more
differentiate Bakehouse and something like Son of, for example, well, Son of in particular is Bakehouse makes you feel like you just read a complete novel, for example, in just such a short time.
Yeah.
Whereas Zanov goes more towards you just lived through someone's whole life. Like basically, you just felt like how they felt, what they thought, what everything about them. That's something that Zanov does better than Bakehouse, but I think
And then again, is that Bakehouse's goal?
yeah, that
Like
is
what?
Bakehouse goal exactly.
Like that's the thing. Like what does Bakehouse set out to do? And I think that like from what you can gather through like the creative decisions that they made, it is very clear that they fucking nailed it. Like there are a few things here and there, like a few hitches, but they've pretty much like the biggest chunk of it they've executed really, really well. Even with some of the criticisms that I've seen, like Mendo's like kind of inconsistency with, you know, how he handles war and how he helps Jifuti, all that kind of stuff. I still think that despite, you know, the characters not being the most well written or there being a few lapses in logic here and there, or maybe they're lucking out a bit too much, especially with the final assassination. I still think like the story just it nailed the landing, right?
Yep.
Maybe like one or two. If we're going like by like tower diving, maybe one or two of the flips were like slightly off rhythm, but it's still got a 10 on the landing. Like a 9.8, 9.7, and 10 is still pretty fucking close to a 10.
For you personally?
Huh?
For you personally?
Yeah,
Like
I'd
that's
say that's pretty goddamn close. I mean, on average, it's like a
give it overall.
9.85, 9.85.
That's pretty good
Average,
actually.
I think.
Yeah. But
That's still pretty fucking close to a 10.
Yep. Personally, I would give Bakehouse closer to an 8 out of 10 or something like that.
I mean, yeah, but I'm like
It's-
talking again like with the analogy of with the like a tower diving analogy.
Oh yeah, that's
That's what I was saying. I wasn't like giving my own ranking, but I was I was trying to carry that analogy to its conclusion.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah, maybe an 8, high 8, I would say.
Yep. Yeah,
I'd say
for me
like a
it's
high 8,
of-
maybe if I'm feeling spicy teetering on the point of a 9.
I'm closer to a low 8. I feel as someone who reads a lot of stories, having to go back to a story and analyze it does hinder its quality in my opinion, because I don't have the time, or I just don't really always want to go back to a story, especially not if it doesn't grab me enough, in which case it barely did. Like, it's kind of like the type of story where I read it and I'm like, hey, this is actually pretty good, alright, let's move on.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that, especially because, again, it's a pretty damn short story.
Yep.
Like, I could probably write something longer if I actually wanted to for once.
The best way to describe a story, in my opinion, or like how I feel about it, is this is the type of story that I read. I'm like, oh hey, this is kind of cool. Let's see what else did the author do now. Now that I know like how to think about this stuff and like what he pays attention to.
I mean, we come from the reverse perspective, right?
Yeah, we played Ghost Frontline first, and then
we played Ghost Frontline first. I played parts of Codename Bakery Girl.
Yeah.
We've both read parts of the confidential files.
Yeah, so reading
and
more.
While for none of those projects Yuzhong was the lead writer, he still had a lot of creative control over all of them, being the main producer.
Yep.
So like you can definitely see a lot of a lot of similarities coming through in all of those.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with Codename Bakery Girl, but we spoke about those parallels last time. A few of those.
There's
And
definitely a certain moral grayness where using excels at. Like
yeah,
that's like, in my opinion, like his biggest
yeah,
strength. Um,
I do
although you
like
can
this
definitely
does.
tell that he is not the best when it comes to writing in terms of which one was it? Blah, Bakehouse. One of the things I noticed was, for example, as soon as the whole thing was revealed and the Major and Mendo were talking to each other, that like Mendo was getting really fucking aggressive, etc. And this is a logical conclusion, yes. It just doesn't feel satisfying in my opinion,
Yeah,
because it's just
yeah,
like, Jesus Christ, contain your emotions for at least somewhat.
yeah.
And
It's again, I think that's one of the parts where the story like stumbles a little bit given its format,
yeah,
like its short format,
yeah,
because that scene goes by way too fucking fast.
yeah, it goes by fast, and the way it goes in is just like, Jesus Christ,
A,
have you not learned about easing something in? My God.
a bit of fucking technical jank here. The scene already goes by insanely fast, but the BGM is short. Like the BGM clip is short enough to loop, and the loop is not smooth at all.
Yeah,
Like, good lord, at least measure your scripts a bit and
yep.
adjust accordingly. Good god. The soundtrack is already the biggest part of the game.
Yeah.
Unironically,
Oh, yeah,
actually,
you mean
never
in
mind.
terms
Let me
of
check.
fight
Let me
size,
check. Let
right?
me check. Let me check. Let me check. Yep, it's 4 MB larger than the background images.
God damn it.
So yes, the BGM is
Yeah.
the largest part of the game. Unpacked, of course. But yeah, bit of technical jank there. There's a few things that I could talk about in terms of technical stuff. For example, the credit roll at the end. Man, MICA coding all the way up to the beginning. It goes. It was kind of janky the way it was lined up, because what you would expect is that like everything is like lined up around the center of the screen, right? For a credit roll, and there's even an image in the file that goes unused for the credits roll,
No.
which I think I've. Oh wait, no, it's a different folder. Give me a second here. I can post it real quick. There's an image in the game that goes unused that has the credit like the staff credit roll, and it's like it's all nice and centered mostly where it makes the most sense. But then they use the like in-engine way of printing out, like live printing out credit roll to the screen, and it's so fucking misaligned. Like everything is like every like heading is aligned to the same like x coordinate, and every credit itself is aligned to the same different x coordinate. So they're all lined up on like two specific lines that go across the entire screen, completely ignoring the like word length and everything.
No.
So it's like super off center.
No.
And I had to go in and fix all of that. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better now.
Nice.
Fucking again, MICA code. Fans having to fix an 8-year-old credit roll for them.
It's always been this way.
It's always been this way. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I can't really think much of anything right now.
Because neither can I.
All right.
Aside from the fact that, like a bit more talk on the like Ren'Py port, because I do plan on making it quite a big thing. Like for one, I of course want to port the entirety of Girl of the Bakehouse itself, but I also want to try to, for one, I want to like make an HD version a fully HD version with like new artwork and everything like MICA themselves planned on doing. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, there's some artwork from the planned Girl of the Bakehouse HD remake on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. Something like that, and maybe even expand the story at the end a bit. So bring in a bit of choice into the main story, and then try to kind of jank my way into trying to deduct what the story of Girl of the Bakehouse 2 would have been. That's something I would love to just even just try myself at. Because
Could be interesting, yeah.
Because, again, we know that Girl of the Bakehouse 2 was a thing. Like, they were working on that before they ditched it, which I would assume is for budget reasons, because Girl of the Bakehouse HD was in production at the same time. And that eventually spun off into Codename Bakery Girl. Like, all the way world building and everything spun off into that. And there's specifically one sketch that Yuzhong posted on his Pixiv, which I don't know. Did you browse his Pixiv after I shared it with you?
I don't think I did. I'll do
Let me
it.
find it really quick. There was a sketch for this one character that was going to take part in Bakehouse 2, and need I say more?
Wait. Okay, now I can see. Ah, yeah, this one. Yeah.
Need I say more? That's William.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot of shit. The new Jifuti one that I sent you the other day, that was way later. That was after Codename Bakery Girl. It was like shortly before GFL came out. So that one has little relevance here. But I'll put it on screen anyways, because it's a fucking wild design. And it's eerily close to Naito's.
Yeah, I'm blessed.
Which is has some fucking wild implications. And then again, like the girl right next to William in that early sketch looks a lot like Noelle in Codename Bakery Girl. Which if you see like the box art of Codename Bakery Girl, she's the other girl. That's not the one that's not Jifuti. That's Noelle. So yeah, she looks very similar to her, and that again pulls in a bit of Codename Bakery Girl spoilers here. Pulls in with like the Three Goddesses project and everything, which William is involved in. So yeah, there's a fucking lot of stuff to unpack with like trying to deduce what Bakehouse 2 could have been about. Yeah. So man, that port is gonna be something. I'll probably release it like once the main story is ported, like the original story with the original artwork is ported. But I do want to kind of get that HD remake thing going and maybe even expand it, hopefully. So yeah. But I think that's it for this week.
Yeah.
These 2 weeks of reloading. Next time, it's oh god, it's theater time, isn't it?
Yay. Oh god.
Oh god, it's
Yay.
theater time. Fuck.
Time to die. Conrad is gonna be interesting this time around because there's a new enemy.
Oh yeah, the fucking Parodius chariot.
Yeah, the rave machine thing.
Yeah, I call it chariot because it really looks like one. That's what I would assume Father to make his entrance on.
Yeah,
kind of
something
thing.
like that.
Because like that's why I'm calling it chariot.
But yeah, the only thing I
Because that's
know
the vibe
that
I'm getting from it.
it's basically the fear of Griffin and Kruger put into like one enemy, and because it's like a not real enemy that it doesn't exist. I think that was the lore behind it.
What was it?
Yeah, something along those lines.
I'll have
but
to see.
yeah, we'll see.
Because we might. I think we do get a different story quip at the front of it this time, right? as well.
Yeah,
With the new
that
season.
would be likely.
Because with the first season, or like the first two runs, first season of theater, it was like, oh yeah, this is this large joint operation to take back SO9. But if like Parodius and KCCO are coming in now, that doesn't exactly fit anymore, does it?
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, I guess that's gonna be next time. Maybe we can get a guest for that. Won't be neat. Anyways, have a good one.
See you.